Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, welcome everybody to the Man's World Show, the Man World Podcast. For those who are new, we are a show that we talk about all types of content, issues related to being a man in this modern world, especially being a Muslim man. So, with that, we have a good show for you guys today. It's going to get into some issues related to uh, custody issues, being a father, being a parent, and it relates directly to the thing that's been on social media lately and has come up a few times before in the past, but I guess it's trending now. Is this whole thing of David Goggins being accused of being a deadbeat father? But everybody loves throwing that phrase around, the deadbeat dad, right? But what if I told you guys that the data, the research shows that there's really there is such thing as a deadbeat dad, but all these people that get labeled as deadbeat dads, it's actually not true. The data and the research shows that these deadbeat dads aren't actually deadbeat dads at all. That in fact they're actually being pushed away from their child's lives, primarily from their mothers or the other co-parent, and also by the children themselves after they've been manipulated, brainwashed, or coerced into doing so. So we're going to get into some of those issues, but we're going to try to put a little spin on it with what can we learn as men, as fathers, as husbands or ex-husbands from this situation that David Goggins has been into. Again, just some logistical things. If you have any questions, type them right into the chat. If you have anonymous questions you want to ask, I want to put a link that you can ask an anonymous question, and we're going to get right into it. Mubarak's going to kind of bring us up to speed real quickly on the David Goggins situation.
All right. So basically, Mr. David Goggins, he's a famous, motivational speaker, influencer, that type of person. Okay. And so his daughter is from a previous marriage, an estranged wife, I guess. They're divorced. So what it looks like from the story, there was some parental alienation going on, to where the daughter was more on the side with the mother when they split. And as the daughter grew up, maybe she had some correspondence or some statements or whatever, where she told her father, and he had the receipts, where basically she didn't want anything to do with him, didn't want him to be in her life or whatever. So I think that's a rabbit hole that we don't want to get caught up going down. But the fact is that the daughter did not want, or at least verbalized, that she did not want to be in a relationship with her father. Like, she did not want to deal with him. She didn't want to see him. And it seems pretty clear that this has some influence on that. It has to do with the mother, and the mother not liking him.
Yeah.
Which is natural when people get divorced. Usually people get divorced because they don't really like each other that much anymore. So, but for the children to get dragged into it and start to pick sides, this is where it goes wrong. So this is where they were basically, she then, as an adult, and I believe she's in her 20s now, recently said, oh, he was a deadbeat father. Come to find out, she had, even sent him messages saying that she did not want to be, did not want to see him, did not want to interact with him, basically didn't want a really father-daughter relationship. He also wound up paying child support for, I believe it was around 18 months, where she was still a child at, 16, 17 years old until she turned 18 or 21 or whatever the time was. Some of these little details may be off, but the gist of it is that he wound up paying about $750,000 in child support, $750,000, somewhere close to that much in child support, I believe, to the daughter, because but regardless, whoever it was, it's way more than enough. Yeah. But he also, on top of that, he went ahead and topped it up and gave her an extra $250,000 just to make it a smooth million.
Yep.
And this was to a daughter who herself said she didn't want anything to do with him. And this was before all this came out recently, saying that her claiming that he was a deadbeat dad. So to recap, she's claiming that her father, David Goggins, is a deadbeat dad and he's not a good father. And this is after he not only paid $750,000 in child support, but also tacked a smooth $250,000 on top of that as a cherry on top to give her a cool $1,000,000. So, with that said, it looks clearly like he's not really deadbeat dad. For whatever reason, the issues with the mother spilled over and leaked into the thought process of the daughter. And so the daughter didn't want anything to do with him, just like the mother didn't want anything to do with him. Therefore, he gets the label. And even with that, he did not only pay the child support, which was a record. They said it was a record for amount of child support paid, I guess, at one time, and then the extra money. So my question to you, Dr. Griffin, is when you have a situation where there is a parent that is alienating or doing what they call parental alienation, where it is difficult for that other parent who's being alienated to be able to have a reasonable, rational conversation and correspondence and interaction. You do see a lot of men online where I'll never give up on my kid, and they have this attitude. So I would ask you, do you fall in the category of the never giving up, or should a person take maybe a different approach to when you're being actively alienated against, and it's actually really nothing is really getting through?
Well, I would say if you classify my position, it'd be in the camp of taking a different approach, right? But it somewhere lies in the middle, because I also say you never give up, right? But you have to understand what that actually means and what it looks like. It doesn't look like what you see on TV or in the movies where the father lived in his car and stalked his kid to school and basically gave up his whole life to try to be involved in his kids' lives, and it's almost like you see these men that they basically make themselves these martyrs, right, for no good reason, because it doesn't actually work. When you actually look into these issues and you talk to people that actually have been through it, people that have actually experienced it, the never giving up actually looks like, on the surface of it, of actually giving up, right? Where I would say a better way to say it is actually pulling back. And because what happens is when a child is in this space of they've been, and for whatever reason, let's take the mother out of the equation. Just say for whatever reason the kid wants to cut their father out of their life, right? Usually happens around teenage age, right? This is where they become independent and they think they know the world and they start whatever it is. At that point, no matter what you do is going to be used as a reason for that kid to justify their decision to cut you out of their life. And I've been through this personally, and I've been through all stages of it. So if you try really hard, like you text them and call them every day, they're going to say, you keep harassing me and bothering me, and you never give me any space. Then if you pull back and say, I'm going to give you your space, they'll say, you never text me, you never call me, you don't care about me. So you're pretty much damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So really what you have to change your mindset and say, okay, the best way or the best hope I have of never giving up, in that hope of having a relationship with my child, is hoping that in the future, when their brains are fully developed, when they actually can look back and look at, analyze their lives, if they ever get to that space and realize hey, I was wrong. And they actually have to come to you and initiate the relationship. And then the never giving up is you always leave that door open for them to come through when they're actually ready to do that.
So an example of leaving that door open, for instance, son or daughter says, I don't want to see you. I don't want to, interact with you, or I don't want to talk to you. They don't answer your calls or whatever. So an example of leaving the door open would be what? Just, they leave you on read. You just go about your business, or is there some sort of
So you
correspondence?
always it's kind of like fishing. If anybody's ever been fishing, you throw out some bait every now and then just to see where they're at. Like you don't totally like you can send a message, try a call here and there, just to let them know that like, hey, I'm still here. But they say like I don't want anything. Then you also actually have to communicate with them very clearly, right? So if it's your child says, let's just go with that. What you just said. Child says, I don't want you contacting me anymore. I don't want to see you anymore, right? You let them know how that's a mistake. You let them know that you love them and that you're always going to like, be there for them and, try to help, but this is a mistake. And when you're ready to resume this relationship, whatever, I'll be here for you. Right. And there's, of course, you have to draw boundaries around that because at the end of the day, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, we talk about David Goggins and, how he could have handled things differently is you always have to remember that no matter what, even if your child cuts off your parenting ability, at the end of the day, you're still a parent. And your goal is yes, it's good to have a good positive relationship with your kids, but your main goal is that your kid actually becomes a decent functioning human being and can be a better parent to their kids, right? So you always have to basically like how I look at it is you always have to try to teach the lesson. And sometimes that lesson, like medicine, is bitter, and kids, while they're kids or while they're becoming young adults and all that, also have to learn how real relationships work. And there's nobody better to teach them that than actually a parent. So when they're, and we'll get into this again more, but you actually just remember that when you're doing those communications, when you're actually letting them know how you're going to move forward, always try to teach them the lesson that if, say, for instance, you die tomorrow, at least those last words were something that maybe that might help them fix this issue inside themselves in the future.
So sometimes what I have seen, what I've heard a lot from men is that they feel like they are giving up because kind of they do give up, and that is because like as far as the scheduling, a lot of times the man has to work, and he usually works like he has a set schedule, or he might have to work extra, especially if he winds up on child support. He's probably having
Mm-hmm.
to do something extra to cover that cost. Now, what happens a lot of times is the custodial parent will not work with the other parent so that they can get their time and that attention or whatever. So if it just takes, hey, can you pick up at 3 instead of 5 so that I can
Mm-hmm.
get to work on time, or vice versa? Or can we do it on Sunday instead of Monday to switch off, and then even there's a even I'll give you the extra day. Nope. Can you come a little bit earlier? No, my son needs his sleep, or something like that, to where
Yep.
it is to where it makes that parent who's trying, really be like, you know what, why am I
Yep.
even going to go through the humiliation of begging this person to make even small adjustments that don't affect their life at all and actually
Yep.
would benefit their child, but yet it keeps you from actually having, a regular visitation or connection or whatever. So
And they
this is
and
what
they
I
call
have seen
that
a lot.
and they call that gatekeeping in like in the field is gatekeeping. And studies have shown that the majority cause of a dad's lack of involvement in a child's life is because of the mother's gatekeeping of exactly what you said, that there's no cooperation. Anytime there's like a visitation, it's always goes favors the mother because mothers get custody. Mothers control that. They are the controlling factor in any type of co-parenting relationship in a majority of situations. And like I said in the very beginning of the show, if instead of talking about like a deadbeat dad, you actually should be talking about a deadbeat mom. And a deadbeat mom is someone who alienates, who gatekeeps, who doesn't cooperate, who doesn't positively co-parent. And then all those different things, or the result of that is a father not being involved in the child's life as they should be. And then the father being the one that is blamed for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, like a good example is like oh, your father doesn't want to see you. In reality, you wouldn't adjust any of the time to pick him up, or he would have had to either to miss a day of work. So he
Mm-hmm.
would have had to lose out on 20% of his pay, which a significant portion or maybe more of that is actually going to actually feed the child and going to the
Yep.
child and child support. So it's like that. This sort of story is told. It almost makes you sick how many times almost every man. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for the women. I mean, this is what, and so I'm sure there's some woman right now saying, "I don't do that." Okay, maybe you don't. But there's a reason why every man you come across has the same story. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so my advice to men is that there is a sweet spot to where when you have your uh, way of making money, your income, there is no way in the world you should jeopardize your career and your ability to provide for that child and whoever else you may have to provide for in order to play these games with the mother of your child or children who are
Mm-hmm.
gatekeeping. I say,
Yep.
so for instance, instead of they'll gatekeep and you'll wind up missing a day of work or having to take off a day of work that you would have gotten paid for because they can't or won't adjust even a little bit up or down or sideways, as far as the time is concerned. So I say it's, don't try to be a hero and think, oh, it's honorable me doing this. No, you are harming yourself by decreasing your income and your ability to earn. You are feeding into this illusion of power that the gatekeeping parent has because, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got him to switch his schedule, I got him, I understand. So feeding into that is going to increase that, and then whoever is dependent on you, you have less resources to take care of them. So what we do in the medical field all the time is we triage, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is, say you have a mass casualty incident where you have some people, they got their head caved in. Some people have a flesh wound. Some people have a broken leg. Other people have, their gut spilled out or whatever. So you look at those and you say, hey, the people with the flesh wound, you might actually help them first. The person with the broken leg, you might help them over the person with their gut spilled out their belly. Why? You say, well, that one's worse. No, because you probably can't save the one with his gut spilling out his belly anyway. So you say, hey,
Yep.
you're too far gone. And some of these children, due to that other parent gatekeeping, they're too far gone. You're not going to be able to positively affect the situation or have a positive relationship with them because, number one, the mother is not only gatekeeping, but sometimes they are also at the same time alienating. So
Mm-hmm.
every time you're trying to undo and you're fighting against, you spend all the time trying to undo, some of the negative influences or the negative thoughts and feelings against you with the child.
Yep.
So you just have sometimes you have to look at it and say, listen, how many other people do I have involved in my life? You got some people, they have several children that are there living with
Yep.
them in their house, and you can put that time, that energy, and those resources into a situation where you have a pretty good idea that you will have the positive impact.
Yep.
But if you go out of your way, missing days of work, losing out on money, messing up your schedule, you taking off whole days, or maybe trying to deal with them when you have children sitting in your home or in your area wanting to interact and to spend time with their father. They want to.
Yep.
The mothers are there and ready to do it. It really is a situation where you have to take an account of what you do have and focus on those ones that you can affect, because that extra energy and effort, just so you can say, nah, I never gave up on my son or my daughter.
Yep.
It's not about that. But the fact of the matter is, while you're doing all this extra for someone who still majority of the time is being turned and twirled and alienated and gate kept away from you, when put that extra energy, that extra time, and that extra money into those children who you have with you. And then
Yep.
if you get the chance, if it becomes easier, or if it becomes reasonable for you to make that effort, and to get over or around that other parent, then do so. But if not, focus on those people you can save. And as we say,
Yeah.
if Noah couldn't save his son, why are you trying?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I also want to point out too is that when you're in an airplane and they give you instructions for, if we're in a crash and the oxygen mask falls down, what do they tell everybody? Put yours on first before you put yours on the kid, right? And it's a simple concept that people should apply also in their lives, is that if you don't take care of yourself, you actually can't take care of the people that you're responsible for, right? And for anybody who's in a situation where you're in a relationship, a marriage, or whatever, it failed, okay, or no, I'll say it failed. You split up, right? What you want to do is failed. You're not together anymore. You have a co-parent situation. The most effective way that you can actually be the best father in that kid's life is by improving your own situation. That's the best, most effective way to do it. That means putting that oxygen mask on yourself first before you put the oxygen mask on your kid in the plane. Take care of yourself first. And people that haven't been through this, they don't understand. Like when you hear statistics about men committing suicide, men dying before women, and all these different things that men suffer, and all these things, you're like, wow, what's going on with men? When you go through these situations with parental alienation, custody disputes, children, turning against you and cutting you out of their lives, then you actually understand, like, wow, because of how much energy it takes out of you mentally, spiritually, physically, everything in your whole life will be turned upside down. And if you don't take care of yourself, you actually can't put yourself in a position. Like, for instance, if you're fighting for custody of your child, have you actually stepped back and say, okay, what if I win? Am I actually in a situation where, like, I can actually, like, do this? What happens is a lot of men, and I don't know why, maybe it's the way the society is nowadays where everybody wants to be a victim. They embrace their victimhood and purposely, or maybe unknowingly, make decisions that make them more of a victim. And it's like, like Mubarak said, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of the people that you actually can help, that want your help, that deserve your help, right? And it sucks when your kids get turned against you. But if you're a good parent and you understand how alienation works, if your co-parent, if your baby daddy or baby mama or whatever, mostly it's baby mamas, babies' mothers, children's mothers, they're alienating your kids against you, it's a lose battle. And your only hope is that your kid actually has Allah blesses your kid with the wherewithal and the wisdom to actually see through it and come up out of it. Because the only way to battle alienation really is for you to start alienating as well, which actually just negatively more affects the kid. So as a good parent, mostly fathers will like just stay away from it. I'm not doing that. So you're losing that battle slowly but surely. Every time they go back to the other house, you're losing, because when they come to your house, you're just normal. And even though the mother is alienating the kid against you, and you see those opportunities, like, yeah, your mother's a piece of crap, or your mother don't love, you could do that, but you say, oh no, your mother's great, your mother's awesome, oh yeah, oh, you do the opposite. So you actually are, by being a good parent, you actually reinforce the weapons that's being used against you. But you have no choice, because you know why? You love your kid and you want the best, and you're just basically hoping, praying to Allah, right? Keeping hope alive, never giving up, the correct way. But I got a question for you, Mubarak. So you have this situation, and that we could put ourselves in this situation where we were married to somebody, right? Had a kid with somebody. Maybe we weren't doing too well, right? Financially, we're young, have kids young, we're just getting out of school, getting into our careers, whatever. And we separate at some point. And say the kid's, like, when we separate, is maybe 15, 16, teenager, right? after we separate, after the kid becomes an adult, whatever, or maybe while the kid's still like a young 18-year-olds, whatever the age group is, just basically David Goggins situation. Then we finally strike it big. We become successful. We get that dream job we always had. Our business takes off, whatever it is. And then our child goes online publicly, talks about, I don't want you in my life, this and that, but you're a deadbeat and I want money from you, or whatever the cases may be. Now, would you, in that situation, a similar situation like David Goggins, would you give your child hundreds of thousands of dollars because of whatever reason David Goggins claims that he did actually give his child hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Man, you already know, absolutely not. And I think that probably, I mean, the way he handled it, in which he did not lash out and go on a rant and bash his daughter for calling him a deadbeat. He didn't attack the mother. He really didn't say anything for a little while. And then, I mean, there was a few videos of him basically saying, well, I mean, here's the receipts. Here's the messages that she sent me saying she didn't want anything to do with me. This was, over the some years back and going forward. And then he showed that, the child support that he actually paid,
Mm-hmm.
$750,000, and he showed the even the extra money that he gave her, being a
Mm-hmm.
deadbeat, the extra money that he gave her, and didn't say, no one knew. See, the thing is, he didn't do it and be like, oh, I did it. No one even knew, and no one would have known had the daughter not come out and said he was a deadbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But the big mistake that he made was giving the extra money. There's nothing we can do about the child support that the courts or the government mandates, because if you don't pay it, you wind up in jail.
Right.
But the extra $250,000 that he gave to her, he's thinking, well, that white knight or whatever, like, I'm going to even show how even better I am. But it wasn't good for her. It wasn't good for him. And so we'll start with him first. For instance, for him, that's $250,000. Okay, $250,000. That I don't know if he has any other children. I believe he's married. I think he has a wife. I'm sure he has people around him that money not only can go to help him personally, but to those people who actually are beneficial and who are he's responsible for supporting, and the people who are in his circle, or even people that are needy. This one, just to give her $1 million to make $1 million, doesn't make any sense. It would be better for him to give to a charity that he had set up. But definitely, for instance, let's just say he has 2, 3 other daughters or children that are not alienated and don't say he's a deadbeat or whatever. He'd be better off now. Maybe he does give them millions of dollars, $1,000, give him even more. It still would be better to do that. And who cares what she says? Because this is the thing, like we said before, it won't matter. If that child has been, and she's in her 20s still, but still, if that child has been alienated against you until they grow out of it, move out of it, whatever, then really, I mean, there's nothing you can do. Even that, because for instance, him giving that $250,000, you know what probably would be said by the gatekeeping parents or by them? Oh well, he could have gave me 2.5 million. He's got plenty. He probably gave whoever, his girlfriend or his
he's
driver,
doing that to just buy you off, to shut you up, so you don't say anything.
he just wants to give you this money, and he has this. This is nothing to him. Something like that. So it's never going to hit the mark where you think it's, now if you did it for yourself, and that's one of the traps, you think, okay, I'll feel better about doing this. No, you have to be strategic, and you have to be surgical, and you have to be reasonable about what the resources that God has given you, as you are really a custodian of it, and you should give it to those people who deserve it. And who you have those rights over you. So that was a big mistake. It was not going to help him whatsoever with her, whether it was just for the emotional connection or try to rebuild the relationship. If anything, it probably would have made it worse. As you can see, my point, he gave the money before any of this came out. And she called him a deadbeat, went online and called him a deadbeat. And then after this, then he had to basically to defend himself, say, hey, I mean, she called me a deadbeat, but I gave this woman $1 million,
Yep.
250,000 of it. I didn't even have to. I did it out of the kindness of my heart. See? And so this is a lesson for the men out there. And okay, and for whoever else might be in a similar situation, but mostly it's men.
Yep.
This is the lesson. Don't do that. He gave $250,000 and she came out and said he's a deadbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, don't give that extra 250 or 2,500 or 2,500, whatever. Don't give the extra. Spend it on those people who you can see reasonably a return on your investment.
Yep.
And who will appreciate it and who then will be able to in turn do something beneficial with it. Also, what you will see, and this is a tale that's old as time. People who have not earned wealth, usually they squander it. Usually they don't appreciate it, and usually they wind up worse off than if they had earned it.
Yep.
So you gave money, extra money, to a person who has done nothing to earn it. And even earning it could have been just being a good daughter.
Yeah.
And loving your dad.
Yep.
But she didn't even do that to earn it. He gave it to her. Usually people who don't earn their money or their status or their wealth or whatever it is, usually don't appreciate it and they squander it. And they actually make some worse people. You know, they say the worst people, the people's conduct and their behavior. And as you can see, she got the money and then started slandering and talking bad about her father, the one who gave her the money, online.
Yep.
Money usually exacerbates and brings out people's true character. So it didn't help her. And, you know, it didn't help him and it didn't help her, you know. So I think it's a big mistake that he made.
Yeah, I think another part as well is like I mentioned about like you're still a parent. So if we can bring this down to our level, right, to the common person's level, we're never. I mean, it'd be nice to be a person that makes enough money that has to pay almost $1 million in child support, but we're not at that level, right? So say for instance, an adult kid, 20 something, that when they were a teenager, they decided, hey, Abu, I don't want you in my life no more. I don't want anything to do with you. They show up several years later and say, hey, can I borrow $10,000 to buy a car? Now, similar situation, basically kid wants money. You can help them out. And it's something maybe you can afford, right? But as a parent, you have to ask yourself, like, okay, when I give them this money, what am I actually teaching them? What am I teaching them about the value of a child-parent relationship? What am I teaching them about relationships, period? What am I teaching them about integrity? And all these different questions you can ask yourself, like, what is the lesson this child is learning by just showing up out of the blue, thinking they can just ask me money, someone who they cut out their life for no good reason, and I'm just going to give them money. As soon as you give them money, you're training them, you're teaching them, oh, this works. I can do this. It's much like, I hate to say it, like a crackhead, right? I'm just going to give it to them this time. Yeah, they're going to, I'm going to go to the rehab, I promise, next time. They never go. The next thing you know, what? They're in your house stealing all your goods, right? Like, I mean, but that's exactly what it is. And so what he could have done better, and you mentioned it, is, okay, maybe if you did have this urge, like, okay, I want to give her more, but her having money is not the real issue. The real issue from a father's aspect is that your daughter's a piece of crap, right? From the raising of her mother, obviously, because you're out of her life. So all the credit goes to her mother. So your daughter's a piece of crap. She's willing to go just talk trash about her parents, right? Online. And so your hope is, as a father, should be like, okay, I don't want my daughter to be a piece of crap. I want her to be a better human being. So maybe there's something you could have tied into, like give her a hint, like, hey, I paid the child support court order, but I'm willing to help you out and help you in your life, and I want to be involved. And I'll give her some hints as to, like, hey, if you are a good daughter, guess what? You're set for life. And then maybe something will snap out of greed or whatever, that actually she does start getting involved in your life, and maybe you can actually combat all those years of alienation and actually get your daughter in your life and actually help her be a decent human being without giving her any money. And then in the end, you know what? Maybe she's whatever her name is, daughter David Goggins, and she continues your empire online and running for 1,000 miles nonstop. Like, who knows? But instead, you just be like, oh yeah, maybe this will just buy her and get her to come. No, it doesn't work that way. Just like Mubarak said.
I mean, he could have even, put that money in some sort of investment or something if he really just wanted to do it, or but to help her, or because because obviously it's his daughter, so he has some sort of emotional connection, and they share blood. She came from him, but
Mm-hmm.
invested in something, buy some stock. I don't know,
Work on the
you know.
grandkid. Say, hey,
Yeah,
started a trust fund for my grandkids
yeah,
if they're
yeah.
involved in
Just
my life.
yep, skip a level,
Yep.
go down, for the kids or something. But it's just a cautionary tale. And I know, there is always going to be some outliers and some people who, don't fall into these categories. And there's great, co-parenting situations, and or just decent or whatever, or they're not toxic. But a lot of people suffer, with these situations, and really, it's really the children. A lot of
Yep.
times, the man gets annoyed. It really annoys the heck out of him, but eventually, it's like, oh, whatever. I
Yep.
mean, and a lot of times, the woman is just literally so enthralled in trying to make sure that she stops the man from living a decent life or happy life or anything. She winds up struggling to even have a decent relationship herself. The
Wow. I
kids
look at
suffer.
those. You look at those messages, and I only seen like screenshots or whatever from those short videos, and you could see or you get the strong impression that it's just the child basically living out what her mother wants to do, but she can't do anymore because she's so far removed. But the mother is obviously still obsessed or bitter that, oh, look at this guy. He's a famous millionaire and I'm a nobody. So she's bitter about that. And that though that's being lived through her daughter. So her daughter's like, okay, this is gonna please mom, or this type of behavior is actually getting me attention or whatever. Because like what does she expect to benefit out of this? Because I could see, like, for instance, if there was like some kind of like crazy story, like, okay, she's gonna write a book off of or get interviews and people are gonna pay, people's just gonna like click, like basically take screenshots of what you say, spread it around, and you're not gonna get nothing out of it besides people saying, "Oh, look at that," and then that's it. 15 minutes, and David Goggins is gonna go on living his life and making money and being famous, and you're gonna still be a nobody.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the thing is, and this is what happens a lot of times. A lot of times when you have one party or one side that's jealous, they do all types of things to try to undercut and try to make the person look bad. I mean,
Mm.
I remember one person, let's just say one person that we know. Um, he was filming a show, and then for some reason his ex out of nowhere jumped in the comments or under a video or somewhere, and just like, oh, he's
Yep.
terrible. It's like,
It's like,
we
what?
don't even know you. I mean, shouldn't you just be living your life somewhere? And
Yeah.
it's like, anyway, but the people that know him be like, yeah, that's BS. Anyway,
Hmm.
moving on. And so you find these people that they are living their life to try to disrupt the person who's more successful and who
Yep.
appears to be, just going on with their life.
Yep.
um and this is the mistake that a lot of women make. They destroy their relationships, they destroy their children, because they almost look at it as inversely proportional. When the relationship ends, if you start to do better, that's an indictment against me, because I was the thing that was keeping you from doing better, and
Yep.
vice versa. So if we break up and you start doing worse, that it is it's a positive for me, because I was what was made you. You were great with me. Now look at you. So
Yep.
they get caught up into that. And this is Shaitan. This is obviously the devil. This is taking getting these people to think that way.
Hmm.
But it's clearly what it is, because as soon as they get another woman, as soon as they get, whatever, if people say, anything good or they have some promotion or whatever, there will be the first person usually to throw some negative. Well, he used to do this, or I remember he was, it's like people just trying to celebrate the guy. So
Yeah.
while David Goggins is getting this praise, for being this motivational speaker, I think he's, I just think he's kind of ridiculous. But I get it. But the thing is, it's like, okay, let me, say, oh, he's, a deadbeat dad. No one would know. No one wouldn't have any clue about this woman if David Goggins wasn't her dad.
Yep.
And so it's like, she even still benefited in some way. She even still got some benefit, even though she's trying to put him down. It's like it happens like that. So the thing is, the jealousy, leave it aside. If you are this is the test, and I will say for every man, for every woman who's in a relationship that ended, this is the test if you are better off or worse, or if you're a better person or not, is the fact that you really don't care how well or not well the other person is doing. You really, I mean, as a matter of fact, you probably should be thinking, well, I hope they do well. But they really don't cross your mind like that until you have to deal with them.
There's a good quote
until
I
you got to
heard.
cut this child support check.
Yeah, there was a good quote I heard, and it really, like, when I went through like my situation with dealing with divorce and custody battles, which I'm still dealing with to this day, but and I was like, oh, that's so true. And seeing other people go through these situations is often people think the opposite of love is hate. But the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. Because hate and love are just two sides of the same coin. It's when you're actually like indifferent, like, oh, that person died. Kobe died. I don't give okay. I don't like the Lakers. Like, indifference, right? Hate usually comes from love in most situations, but there are some evil people in the world where like they're evil enough, and then you actually feel what actual real hate is, But one of the things I wanted to mention too, just about her, and we can kind of wrap this up, and I think I got like one question that came in, is that when this daughter of his messaged him and said, I want nothing to do with you, whatever. We know this is how we could tell that the mother, because there's always signs that there's parental alienation, and it's shown by the kid. You don't have to know anything about the other parent. The kid will tell you, like, yeah, my other parent has alienated me against my other parent. Because if she just said, okay, dad, bygones be bygones, whatever, I don't want anything to do with you. If that solely came from her, she would not be talking years later as an adult about how he was a deadbeat dad. Right? Because like when you're like, hey, you know what? We dealt with an individual, right? We're like, listen, dude, we're done with you. We ain't dealing with you no more. You don't see us like any opportunity we get, like going online. Oh yeah, this person did this. This person. No, that means that you still actually want a connection with that person, whether it's negative, and you're still got a child's mentality. Because what happens when a child doesn't get positive attention? They seek negative attention. They'll start acting out. You're still trying to get some kind of engagement with your father and or your mother by this behavior, just going online unprovoked and saying, oh, guess what? I know you like him because he gets you to work out. He's all shit and shit. But guess what? He was a deadbeat dad. Oh, you're a kid and he's not taking care of you? No, I'm a grown-ass adult. What? Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, this is a test that I would put towards anybody who claims that they have a deadbeat father, or a deadbeat ex, or husband, or whatever. I put the challenge, especially to women, because I know women won't be able to do this. No, maybe they will. Hopefully they will. This is the challenge. If you think, my ex is a deadbeat man, he's either not spending the time or the money or whatever. Very simple. Just send a message and say, hey, what can I do to make things easier for you in dealing with your children or your child or whatever? What can I do to make things easier? That doesn't mean, okay, no more child support or whatever. Maybe you need it. I doubt it, but maybe you want it. But the point is, if you could say, hey, listen, deadbeat, since you're a deadbeat, obviously you're struggling. What can I do to make it easier for you to have a productive, healthy, whatever relationship with your children? And now watch. Now, if you're listening to this and you say, I'm not going to do that, then yep, you're the problem. It's you.
Exactly.
It's you. Because why wouldn't you make it easier for them to have a better relationship with the children? Unless you are gatekeeping and you actually are the issue.
Yep.
But if it's easier for you to say, hey, ex-husband or ex-boyfriend or one night stand or whatever it was, what can I do to make it easier for you? Because obviously you're struggling. What can I do to make it easier for you to spend the time or the money or whatever? You want to do bi-weekly every month or whatever? Do you want me to send you a reminder? Well, they probably already do that. But, what could it be? If you can't do that, then you're probably the problem.
Let me give you an example because people really don't understand what parental alienation is. When they hear it, they think like, oh, the parent is just like, yeah, your father's a piece of crap. You shouldn't talk to him. He, cut him out. Like they think it's like this overt extreme situation. No, it is that too. But this is what parental alienation looks like, right? So for instance, Mubarak and myself, we're in a co-parenting relationship. If one of our kids came to us and said, hey, I don't want to go to mommy's today. It's mommy's visitation day, right? It's her scheduled time, the time you agreed upon, or the time the court ordered, or whatever. If one of our kids said, I don't want to go to mommy's house, we would say, well, you're gonna have to talk to your mom. This is her time. We're gonna have to arrange that with your mother, whatever. Maybe contact them and say, hey, so and so saying she don't want to go to your house. You're gonna have a talk with her, right? But this is what parental alienation looks like. You don't say anything to the other parent. You tell the kid, like, okay, you don't have to, right? And then when the other parent comes to go pick up their kid, you say something as simple as, well, I'm not going to make them go, right in front of the kid. Right there, you just alienated your kid. Because in a normal situation, right? Because you have to think like if we're married. And there's times parents get in this situation all the time. Because maybe in reality, you can't make them go. Like maybe like they're like a teenage kid and you're not going to like pick them up and throw them in a car and kidnap them or whatever. But we run into situations like this as parents all the time. Like for instance, and this is one we all can identify with. We have a child that won't eat their vegetables. We're both parents in the house and we're like, hey, you better eat your vegetables or you're going to go to bed. I'll give you an example for my own kid. Eat your vegetables or you're going to bed. All right, I'll go to bed. Shit, that didn't work. All right, eat your vegetables or no TV time. Okay, I don't want to watch TV. And then me and my wife will go back and be like, what the hell? We can't shove it down his throat. Like, what the hell can we do? But if we said that in front of the kid, guess what? We just told them like, hey, you know what? Whatever you're doing is A-okay with me. And that's how small parental alienation could look. It could look as simple as when the kid says something negative about the parent or the parent's household or the parent's new wife or the parent's other kids, you just smile. That was funny. Oh, don't say that about your father. You just engaged in parental alienation. So I just wanted to say that real quick for the viewers to understand that parental alienation isn't always this overt, active, like, ghetto, like, hey, you better not talk to your father. Oh, yeah, it's a lot of that, but it's also these small acts that basically encourages whatever behavior it is that takes that child out of the other parent's life.
Yeah, how about this? Hey, mom, can I get these new shoes or whatever? Listen, hey, we can't afford them. I mean, your dad makes a lot of money, but we're not getting any of it. So, or I just don't get enough. I mean, hey, listen, your dad's the rich guy over there, but why I don't have money for shoes, I don't know.
Great example.
You know,
Great example. Because
so it's
now
like,
who's the kid blaming in their head?
mhm,
Not we're
blaming dad.
poor. Dad won't buy it for me. Dad won't buy it for me.
Or the thing where the uh, uh, grandfather or the stepdad or the new husband or whatever, you know,
Hmm.
um, you know, I mean, your dad. I mean, I'm sure he's he bought whatever shoes for his other kids that are living with him, but Mr. Mike had to buy these, or your grandfather
Hmm.
had to buy these for you, but I mean, see
Look,
these
I'll
things.
even say this: the institution, and this is a systemic problem. The institution of child support is the very first point of parental alienation. Why? Because I'm pretty sure that most women who collect child support, rightfully so, wrongfully so, whatever you want to call it, when they go buy their kids that pair of shoes or bowl of cereal, bread, milk, whatever, they're not saying, "Oh, daddy bought these for you." Right? It's kind of like the Santa Claus thing, right? When we were growing up, right, and we used to celebrate Christmas, but that's a whole other topic, right? So there was no point in our lives when we ever believed in Santa Claus. Our parents made sure, like, no, we bought this for you, right? And part of that attachment or that relationship between a child and a parent is also like, oh, these are the people that take care of me. Now, what happens when you take away the actual rightful identifier, the person that's providing for them, right? And now, like, okay, everything that I'm actually providing for the child is actually associating with the mother. By default, that child is automatically thinking my father is a deadbeat. He doesn't take care of me. When in fact, he's actually taking care of you twice the time, because he's taking care of you when you're at your mother's house, and he's taking care of you when you're at his house. And then when you cut him off, he was still taking care of you for all those years until you actually became an adult, right? And I won't say any names because we're going through, but there's people, for instance, that have not spoken to their kids in 7 years, but the father, through his insurance, still pays for them to actually have his grandchildren that he has never seen or spoken to or doesn't even know their names. But he gets the insurance bill. Like this it's all parental alienation. And this is why, tune into our other shows where we talk about how to protect yourself from all this
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. I mean, just think about this. I mean, it's like this, right? Um, for instance, somebody likes, one of the kids likes this certain cereal.
Mm-hmm.
If the mother can't or won't buy it, it's your daddy won't buy that. Your daddy he doesn't. But if she does, if it's something that they do like or want, she just gets it. And there's no acknowledgement to where, oh, but your daddy actually did buy all this other stuff. So it'll be
Yes.
pointed out that your daddy won't buy it because he's cheap. Your dad's too cheap. He won't buy those shoes, but he'll buy these ones over here. Just
That is
point it
like the
out.
double whammy. That is
Yeah.
deep. That is real deep, because I got the same money from your dad. Oh, your dad won't buy it, but I'm gonna use your dad's money to buy it, but tell you that I bought it. And look at me, I'm great.
Yeah. And exactly. And I'll take it a step further. Another challenge. Challenge number 2 is for
Mm-hmm.
these people who are receiving child support. I dare you to look your children in the face and say, your dad gave this money, and this is why we have this food over here, or this bed over here, or these shoes, or these clothes, or whatever.
This is
So
what, or this is why
they,
I was allowed to travel
yeah,
overseas and.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I went on a vacation without the kids,
Yep.
by the way, but I challenge him to just say, hey, either have the kids say, hey, you know what? Thank you for the food, the clothes, or whatever that you gave or were forced to give to my mom to buy this stuff for us. Thanks. We appreciate it. My
Yep.
mom. So, and I guarantee most of the women that won't say it. They get that check and they spend the money. Here, I'm gonna get you this. I got you. I'm gonna buy this for you. And most of the time, what they buy is stuff the child doesn't even need. It's usually extra
Yep.
items, things that are not even essential. But I challenged the people who are receiving child support to have that child thank the person who's paying. And we know who usually pays is the men.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and do it. And if you can't do it, if you're struggling to do it, if you're hesitant to do it, that means you're the problem. You are the problem because you are it doesn't matter if you say, well, he should be paying more, or he doesn't pay on time, or he skips payments, or he owes back child support. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get child support this month or any month? That month that you got it, tell the child this month, well, it don't matter if it was 1992. In 1992, in December 1992, your father paid $77 in child support. Tell him thanks. And it should be easy to do because you're not a petty person and you're not a gatekeeper. You're not alienating.
Yep.
And you know that it was not you that worked and spent the time and energy and effort to make the money that went into the account that you got the child support for. It should be easy. But if you struggle to do it, that means you're part of the problem.
Let me tell you're about to get me going on some tangents. Let me tell you a story about an individual, right? So he was in a situation where, he's in a good situation financially. When he has his kids, they're always going on trips, traveling to different states, amusement parks, hotels, this type of stuff, always traveling somewhere. But on the mother's side, the kids' frequent trips, they would consider trips or outings or events, would be to just go to Walmart. Like that was like, oh, what did you do this week? Oh, we went to Walmart. I'm like, you went to Walmart, right? Whereas if you asked on the other side, they're like, oh yeah, we went to Dorney Park, or we went to this water car, or we went, whatever. Through the years, that one of the kids gets, turned against their father, and then complains to the father, saying, I have a problem with you because you buy us clothes from Walmart. And it's like, wait a minute. So the guy's like, wait a minute. When you're with your mother, like Walmart is y'all thing. Like y'all visit Walmart, like y'all going to Dorney Park. Like it's like, oh, we're going to Walmart today. But then you're cutting your father off because he buys you clothes from the most treasured place you and your mother visit. Oh man, the stories from these situations, they are hilarious and they're so you wouldn't believe them, but they actually do happen, and it's an epidemic in our community all around, especially in the West, and we have to protect ourselves from this as men because we are usually the victims of this. We always draw the short end of the stick. You're on the losing end starting off if you go into the court system, right? It's so protect yourself beforehand. If you are in a situation, again, we put this out there in the last episode, reach out to us, email amansworld@gmail.com if you have any questions, you need advice how to deal with certain things, because we have great advice. And we also want to learn from your perspectives and your experiences, because we haven't experienced everything, but we're learning something new every day.
Absolutely. And then once again, if anybody needs help, they can always reach out. Anybody going through or about to go through, about to deal with this. Yes, all the stuff that we're talking about is like, as they say on Law and Order, these are taken from real life events. Trust me, this is not just we saw a video one day and decided to just talk about it. Like we lived through a lot of this stuff, and so time permitting, of course, we'll try to help people so that they don't go through some of the same mistakes and troubles that we went through and others that we've dealt with. So go ahead and reach out if you can. Email amansworld@gmail.com.
All right, so close us out with, if you're speaking, I'm David Goggins right now, and I ask you for some final advice for how to deal with my daughter going forward. What would your advice be?
Can you put a stop payment on that check? Because it's too late That's number one. Can you get a stop payment on that check? Can you reroute the wire? Can you cancel the wire transfer? That's number one. But number two is that, your daughter probably when she gets to a point, hopefully when she gets to a point where she gets older and or has children of her own, and especially if she winds up going through something similar. Sometimes people don't understand what type of father they have until they marry some person who's not that good of a father, and they say, "Wow, my dad was way better than this person," right?
Yeah.
I had it good or whatever. Or sometimes they don't realize how good of uh, a husband or whatever. So it can be the other way around, but a lot of times she won't realize it until is forced to come to that realization herself. So
Yeah.
you always leave the door open, right? You say, and I've seen people that will say, "Hey, listen, when you're ready to deal with me, I'm open. Whatever you said and whatever you say, all right, I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to respond in a negative way. You can say whatever. I'm this, I'm that. Listen, you're my child, you're my son, you're my daughter. And when you're ready to have a functional relationship, bygones can be bygones. But, as long as you have this idea and this thought that I am, a negative impact in your life, well, then, you go where things are positive and I'll keep being positive where I'm at.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then you just wait it out. Maybe she'll come around, maybe she won't. But I know we laugh about, the thing, but, listen, if Noah couldn't save his son, and he was better than any of us, it's very likely that you could do everything right. You could do everything right, and you still have a child who will not vibe with you, won't deal with you, who will alienate or will be alienated against you, and you won't get him back. So, are
Mhm.
you going to spend a lot of time and resources and energy, fighting a lost cause when you probably have children that are literally saying, "Hey, Dad, play this game with me. Come on, watch me do this. Let me do. Come on, put that energy there. Put that
Yeah.
energy into people who want you. Go with who wants you, even if it's your own children who don't want you, and then eventually they'll come around, hopefully, and then that way you have the time and the energy, and it's reciprocated and it's beneficial. You're not going to live forever. You have a limited
Yeah.
amount of time. Spend it on those people who deserve it. And when and if your daughter comes back around, you'll have plenty of time, money, resources, and energy to give to her.
I mean, we need to have a show where we just do like story time and just tell about all the different incidents that we know of. But alhamdulillah, that'll wrap us up for this week. If you have any questions, there was one question, so let me pull that up. Where'd it go? So the question is, if my teenage child tells me that they don't want to see me anymore, what should I do? Um, I guess I'll take the first crack. Again, every situation is different, but again, we kind of covered it already in the show. Um, leave the door open. Don't kill yourself or put yourself in any negative situation trying to fix that teenage child's or change that teenage child's mind. Um, make sure you educate them on the mistake that they're making by cutting their parent out of their life, and just let them know that you love them and that you'll be there for them when they actually do want to, you know, have a relationship. So yeah.
Yeah. I would add to that sometimes with teenagers and with adults too, sometimes this
Yeah.
stuff is attention seeking behavior
Yeah.
where it depends. Now, if you've done something, physically or emotionally or financially or something to the child, I know some people's parents who have, robbed them, literally, physically, turned them upside down, took their money, you know, and, said, I need this, and maybe the father really needed it for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But, but the child telling them, like, I don't even want to see you anymore. I mean, the, them saying it is reasonable. So as long as it's not something that you can see, okay, I see why the child did that. The there's instances where a parent has, let's just say, stolen their teenage, child's significant other, boyfriend or girlfriend. They've done it.
Yeah.
Now, if you do something like that, then you can
It might be
understand why that
justified.
might, yeah, what I'm saying. Even I wouldn't even say that's justified. You're kind of a creep, but still,
Yeah.
it's not justified. But you understand. Like I said, like
Yeah.
as May says, I don't agree, but I understand. You know what I mean? So the thing is, as long as it's not something like that you've done, maybe if you're just being disciplined, or if it's due to parental alienation, then I would say just that. You have to tell them, hey, listen, I'm here for you. Your father or your mother is, really turning you against me, you know, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And if you do have a change of heart, it's all cool. I won't even bring it up, and then we can resume to where we should have been or whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes they get into this attention seeking. They want to say, "Oh, I'm going to run away," or "I don't ever want to see you again," and they actually want you to say, "Oh no, don't! Oh no, no, how could you?" And sometimes we fall for that trap, I would say. But I would say you have to be careful with that, because every time they're going to keep going back to that play. They're going to use that play every time, instead of behaving properly, or instead of you being able to discipline them properly, or keep them from doing things that are reckless or dangerous or not smart. Hey, I want to go, to this, party with some people that I met online. What's their name? Who are they? I don't know. Or I just want to, marry so and so that I met on Facebook. Have you ever met him in person? No, but we love each other. No, you can't do that. I don't want to talk to you again. Some of these things that if you fall for the trap of, oh, maybe my kid's not ever going to talk to me again, you'll never be able to discipline them, especially a teenager. You will never be able to get them to follow that path that you're trying to get them that's best for them. So if when they say, hey, I'm never going to talk to you again, I don't want to see you again, then you get into this begging and groveling, and then they're going to keep using that, and they're going to whip you around with that. But if you say, hey, listen, I'm trying to do what's best for you, or I am doing as best I can, whatever your father or mother is saying about me, I can't do anything about that. I'm doing the best I can for you. I want to have a relationship with you, but if you don't want to have a relationship with me, and you're not going to deal with me in the way that I see fit as your parent, then you do what you need to do. I will be here. And when you're ready to operate on my terms, you're more than welcome. Yep. And I will be ready to deal with you. But until then, as they say, Allah's earth is spacious.
Yes. I mean, no questions in the chat besides, bro, what is this video about? I think it's in the title. Check that out yourself. Flat Gyro said salam, wa alaikum salam. And if anybody else that watches this video later, just type any questions or comments in the comment section. And, we try to address comments as they come in on future shows. And I guess we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right. Stop payment on that check, David.